my truly current policy rant, and it's getting some traction. I'm not reluctant to let it go very public that I am seeking a 30-minute pitch platform with Trump. There it is. Everybody knows. And there are some people in very high places that are agitating for that. For what? Very specific. A food emancipation proclamation. What does that mean? What that means is if you and I, as consenting adults, want to exercise freedom of choice to give our microbiome provenance agency, these are all phrases, right? We should be able to engage in a food transaction without asking the government's permission. Period. Across the board. I don't care whether it's raw milk, homemade charcuterie, cheese, butter, tomato soup, bone broth, whatever it may be. Neighbor to neighbor food transactional commerce should be able to happen without a bureaucrat involved. Right now, our food system is fundamentally enslaved and shackled to a plethora of scaled prejudicial food regulations that prohibit direct food trade, food transactions between neighbors without the government's permission. And if we're going to have a secure, safe, stable food system, we need to open up the oligarchy that Bernie Sanders is running around the country. And we got to stop the oligarchy, got to stop the oligarchy. We need to open that oligarchy up to competitive pressure from thousands and thousands of smallholder farmers who are ready to access their neighbors with food. Here's something that's just come to me in the last 2 months. Literally, this is brand new. I mean, I'm just developing these ideas right now. For 30 years, people, my friends, people in our clean food movement have been preaching, get in your kitchen, buy a whole chicken, don't get pre-cooked chicken with a pop-up thermometer in it. Get in your kitchen and use it to prepare, package, and preserve food and all that. We thought 30 years ago, certainly I did, that by now the local food movement, the know your food, know your neighbor, know your farmer, know your food, all these agendas would bring to us a new domestic culinary interest. It has not. You'd like to think all these food channels, with Guy Fiero and Julia Child started it, that certainly by now there would be domestic culinary interest. There is not. It's all vicarious. And Americans are now eating 75% of their food is convenience food. Most of that is ultra processed, which means it's got as many as 10,000 unpronounceable laboratory made dyes, additives, preservatives, monosodium glutamate, all these things in it that you can't have in your kitchen. So that horse, that convenience food horse, has left the stable. Now combine that with the fact that in the last 80 years, the American farmer's percentage of take of the retail dollar has dropped from 50 cents on the dollar to 8 cents on the dollar. The average American farmer is now 60 years old. In the next 15 years, half of all America's agriculture equity is going to change hands. Half of it. That's land, machinery, buildings. That has never happened in any civilization in history in peace. It's only happened in war, conquest. Now, I'm not suggesting we're getting ready to go to war. All I'm suggesting is that if we peacefully make this level of agrarian equity transfer peacefully, we will be the first culture in the history of the world to do it, which, as you know, is a tough way to bet, because generally you want to bet on the historical record. And so we're getting, what we're hoping for is to defy the historical record. Well, how do you create that on-ramp? See, the problem is when young people can't get in, old people can't get out. What's the fastest way to let young people get into farming? It is to give them a profitable opportunity to access the market. But in order for me to get you a chicken pot pie from my farm, if I need to jump through $500,000 worth of infrastructure, licensing, and paperwork hoops to get you a pot pie from my farm, how in the world am I supposed to be able to launch a chicken pot pie business to my neighbor if to do one pot pie, I need $500,000 worth of infrastructure and paperwork compliance. This is the enslavement of the food system. And it's what artificially props up the oligarchy because they're in and they have enough volume to pay the $500,000. If I'm just making a 5-gallon bucket full of bologna or charcuterie or homemade pepperoni or, raw milk or something, that $500,000 becomes a real shackle. So we've got lots of things here. We've got Americans yearning for, I'll just stick with chicken pot pie, yearning for pot pies that don't have MSG and red dye 29 and glycerin and antifreeze and all sorts of stuff in it. And there's no reason why chicken pot pie has to, I can make one and freeze it, give it to you in a cardboard box. It doesn't have any of that stuff in it. But the industrial food sector is now dominated by the leftover tobacco company chemists. When the tobacco companies went out, those labs and all of that technology got snarfed up by, Nestle's and Cargill and the big food companies. That chemistry got dumped into the convenience food market, which they then profited from all of that value adding and dropped the farmer's share from 50 cents of the retail dollar to 8 cents of the retail dollar. So I hope you're following my track here, that we've got two things going on. We've got a yearning populace wanting choice in the food system to not get industrial adulterated food. We've got young farmers wanting to get in that want to sell these folks food, but between these consenting adults wanting to exercise freedom of choice, we've got a bureaucrat standing there that says, no, you've got to sign this paper and you've got to buy $500,000 worth of stuff. Prototypes start embryonically. And when a prototype is too large, when it has to be birthed at a large scale, the baby is too big to be birthed. So what we have right now are thousands and thousands of wannabe, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed entrepreneurial young people ready to make unadulterated, authentic convenience food for their neighbors, but their dream is too big an embryo to be birthed. And so these are a bunch of stillbirths. That's basically what we've got. Now, to conclude, I'm not an abolitionist. My concern right now in the MAHA movement is that a lot of people are okay, we're on a wave now, we're going to outlaw glyphosate, we're going to outlaw Monsanto, we're going to outlaw factory, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to outlaw anything. It's fine. Let it be. So I'm not an abolitionist. What I do want is a viable underground railroad, so that those of us who want to opt out of that industrial complex enslaved system are free to do so. And if we have a viable underground railroad for those of us who want to opt out, I don't know what will happen. I'm not a prophet, but I can't help but believe with the access, the lower prices, because you don't have to have a $500,000 facility to do a chicken pot pie. I have to believe that this yearning of the American spirit to get authentic, unadulterated food will find its way to these neighborhood producers, and it will fundamentally change our food system to be safer, more secure, and more stable.